So for the last 3 months, I have been on a bit of a spiritual awakening, spiritual discovery journey. It kind of started in April, and these last 3 months I've been working on tapping into my spiritual side. I've never been religious, but I've always kind of believed that there might be more to this world, and since losing my nana in January as well, I've kind of explored a little bit the idea that there is this spiritual side, and that there is spirit and people on the other side, and kind of you're being guided. And this kind of all started when I started getting into tarot a bit more. So I bought a tarot deck. That's the one that I use, which is not the traditional tarot deck. But I thought that as I'm starting to learn about tarot and interpret it, it might be fun to do a video kind of maybe explaining some of the basics of tarot that I'm learning at the moment. I'm not proficient in tarot at all. This is just a hobby that I'm learning to enjoy a little bit more. But I pull cards every single night now, and I sometimes just kind of ask for some clarity on some things. Sometimes while I've been learning, I use ChatGPT to help me interpret the cards, because there are some apps out there that help you interpret the cards, but you do usually have to pay for them. And ChatGPT has helped, but I thought I would kind of explain the basics of the card deck and kind of show you my spread. So with tarot, you have major arcana, and then you have swords, cups, pentacles and wands. So major arcana, if I can find some in this deck for you, in this spread that I've pulled for myself. So these are all major arcana cards, and what we mean by that is that these are the fundamental life cards. So when you pull these in tarot, it's usually telling you about things you need to do in your life, things that need to transition. For example, death is one of the most common tarot cards, but really death is meaning that you're ending something, possibly to begin something new. And the Tower is the most disliked major arcana card, because that usually means that the foundations of your life might be shifting or completely break down to make something new come in to fruition. So tarot is basically like storytelling. It tells a story about what's going on, and the cards can be interpreted differently depending on what you've asked and how they've come together and how they interact with one another. So a lot of people just pull 1 or 2 cards sometimes, and you can get an idea about the basics of a card, but it's that interaction, and everybody interprets them slightly differently. But a lot of people think that spirit kind of guides them to interpret them as they do. So for example, in this major arcana pack, the Fool. So the Fool means taking a leap of faith. Sometimes it's something you don't want to do, but it means leaning into not knowing and kind of trusting that you need to take a leap of faith for something to get better. The World. If you did a love reading, it might mean that someone considers you their world. The World means that big things might be happening for you, that you might get a lot of opportunities, career, abundance opportunities, financial opportunities. Like the world is kind of in your favour, so it's usually considered a positive card. Strength. This means sometimes you have to exert strength. If it's paired with other cards, that could suggest that you need to show more strength in ending something, or show more strength in terms of self-love, or to present a stronger side of yourself at work and advocate for yourself better, those type of things. Temperaments, it kind of means that you have to be patient and calm and kind of accepting of things. It's usually like a slow down card sometimes in relation to other cards, and it means taking a step back, reassessing. That's not a high action card. High Priestess, that is kind of interpreted as your intuitiveness, your knowing. So if you're in the High Priestess energy, you have strong intuition about something, you know something, you need to trust in your sense of self. This can sometimes, like with that Hierophant card, they can suggest kind of knowledge, but High Priestess is usually your inner knowing. And then I don't think I'm going to go through all of these cards, but I'll just kind of explain the different ones. So Pentacles. Pentacles usually represent kind of an opportunity, financial, career. They could be interpreted as love, but it usually means a gift of something, or an achievement of some kind, usually Pentacles. So the more Pentacles that you have, kind of the better the card interpretation. But there are some caveats to that, like the Two of Pentacles means more about balance. But Ten of Pentacles is a very positive card. That means, as you can see on the picture, it's usually achievement. You're achieving something really good. You've got all of the Pentacles, so that's a really positive card. In terms of if you were going for a career opportunity and you had this in your pull, it would suggest that success is kind of on the cards. Then we have Cups, and Cups are all about your emotions. And emotional fulfillment. So again, similar to Pentacles, Ten of Cups is the happily ever after card. So if you got that in a love reading alongside things like the Ace of Cups and the Lovers, that means you've got a really strong relationship, or love on the horizon that's got long-term potential, soulmate potential, as some people say. So if you've got 10 cups, all your cups are full, and that's a really positive card. You can have it for things like career as well, and just general outlook on life, but that's a very positive card. But then, as you can see with the Five of Cups, this means that sometimes if people want all their cups filled, if they're not focusing, or they've kind of, like in the Five of Cups, it's more like you're so worried about your cups being filled that you're missing them. As you can see, she's scrabbling around trying to find them, but then there's some behind her that she's missed. So that kind of sometimes means more that you're more emotional, more than emotional fulfillment, you're more emotional in general. So cups are always emotions. Wands are kind of a little bit like the Harry Potter interpretation of a wand. I always think that's kind of something is being manifested or created. So when you have, for example, Eight of Wands, I don't have that in my spread, but Eight of Wands means communication, fast movement, momentum on something. So if it was a career and you're waiting for a call back from an employer, that would be the card. Or if you are manifesting a partner or an ex coming back, if you were doing a kind of love reading like that, if you've got the Eight of Wands, they're going to reach out soon, that kind of interpretation. For the Five of Wands, that usually shows conflict. So if, as you can see, everybody's like got their wands out ready, defensive. That can be a symbol of internal conflict, so head and heart, sometimes in a love reading that you're unsure of, or it could be competition, people around you giving off competition energy. But like with the Seven of Wands here, it's like she's striving forward. Wands usually means something is being created, as in my interpretation. So you're kind of, sometimes it's kind of like a more of a fiery energy, I would say, passionate. And then Swords is to do with clarity, and they're the harsher of the presentations in tarot, because it's usually like, can be interpreted as cutting through the bullshit, but also lower type swords. So for example, Three of Swords is the heartbreak card. That means that someone's betrayed you, or you've had a heartbreak in love, or you know, it's kind of like those harsher emotions. So like the swords represent sometimes harsher emotions, and that cutting, that sharpness. However, they can be interpreted quite positively. So the Four of Wands is usually, you know, more of a cautious card. But say the King of Wands and the Queen of Wands, they are somebody who's getting stuff done. They have like a precision to them. So these aren't really emotional. For example, if you've got the King of Cups, he's a very emotional energy. This is like, if you get the King or the Queen of Swords, they're just like cutting through the bullshit. So this might be somebody that you know in work or romantically who just doesn't take the bullshit. This might represent that they're quite successful, quite business minded as well. But then, as you can see, when you get all these cards together, you have to interpret them as a kind of story. So it depends what you're asking. But if, for example, you were trying to get guidance on stuff about where to go with your life, like these are, you know, your intuition is right and it will bring you fulfillment. If you're looking for some kind of tangible success. So yeah, that's how I'm kind of interpret the cards at the moment. And I kind of shuffle them, and then sometimes if I'm really stuck what they all mean together, I'll ask ChatGPT to interpret them. But I thought this would just be a fun little video on what some of the cards represent and how I'm learning to read tarot.